Following a really good 4-1 start, everything appeared to be trending upward for Golden State. And while that still might be the case, now they're dealing with a bit of controversy again, with that coming in the form of their ability, or rather inability, to work out a long-term deal with Jonathan Kuminga. After all, they failed to reach a new deal prior to the contract extension deadline for rookies on Monday night, while other teams with their young players like Houston with Jalen Green, Cleveland with Evan Mobley, Orlando with Franz Wagner, Houston again with Alperen Şengün, and even Atlanta with Jalen Johnson came to an agreement, with every single one of them agreeing to a $100 million plus new contract. Meanwhile, Jonathan Kuminga did not get a new contract. According to reports, he was looking for a 5-year, max-level deal from Golden State, which again, he obviously did not get from them. I don't know if Golden State felt that he was not worth it, or they simply don't know what they have in him quite yet, but they obviously did not come to an agreement. And I get it, they're trying to be smart with their money here. They don't want to tie up a bunch of long-term money to a guy that might not be worth it, but that probably did create a rift between them, an even bigger one than before. And then to add even more fuel to the fire, Steve Kerr went out and benched Jonathan Kuminga earlier this week, even with both Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry not being available to play. Yikes. In addition to that, Kuminga has yet to play over 28 minutes in a game this season, not even touching the 30 mark, let alone the 28-minute mark. And then he's averaging only 23 minutes per game so far in their 5 games played, down from 26.4 minutes per game last season, and simply not getting the same playing time, not getting the same opportunity, and it really does feel intentional. Now, he's not helping himself in some ways, not playing that great, but it definitely does feel intentional on the part of Steve Kerr. With that being said though, could Golden State really look to trade Jonathan Kuminga? They're obviously not seeing eye to eye right now, but does that mean they're headed in that direction? And if it does, what could they get for him, or why the hell have they maybe even given up on him to begin with? We'll break it all down. But before we get too far into it, don't forget to check out our NBA Discord. If you love talking about the NBA, then we got you covered. We got a live game chat, a daily discussion board, and much more to talk about everything NBA related. Feel free to check it out in the video description down below. But now getting back to our topic. And up until this point, Kuminga has been averaging only 23 minutes per game, 11.4 points per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, shooting 40.8% from the field, and 15.4% from beyond the arc. Again, rather underwhelming, and not the same kind of averages, let alone impact that he made last season. Now it's still very early, but a pretty big drop off again, and Golden State is currently devaluing him if they are in fact looking to trade him. Between the playing time, the opportunity, and then the production more on his part, his value is definitely trending downward rather than upward. And that's something they definitely don't want if they're looking to trade him. I mean, other teams see a guy that they're not willing to trust in big moments, let alone their starting lineup. And maybe or maybe not, but I'm sure they'd bring that up during a trade negotiation too. If the Warriors can't trust him, then why should they? And whether or not Golden State actually does want to trade him, demoting him to their bench or simply from a playing time standpoint does not help them figure out what they have in him. So if they're trying to figure that out from a contract standpoint, that's not helping them. Again, they didn't give him the max contract, which is fine right now, but they kind of figure out what they have in him and what he would be worth at the end of this season. That would be when they would have to pay him, so they gotta figure it out between now and then. After all, the guy only turned 22 years old less than a month ago. Kind of hard to believe with him entering his 4th NBA season, but only 22 years old and plenty of untapped potential. And whether you think he can reach that top tier point that some people think he can, or will fall somewhere in between that top tier and bottom tier point, they really don't know that yet. And they gotta figure that out sooner rather than later. And a little bit more on the trade front for him, they definitely have been open to making a trade within the past few months. Obviously made a number of sign-in trades throughout the summer. That's how they got Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, and Kyle Anderson after all. And then they're linked to a few big name players too. Guys like Paul George and Lauri Markkanen. And although it didn't come to fruition, they were involved with them, tried to get Paul George, and then later on Lauri Markkanen. Maybe still could try to get Markkanen, but not right now. And that showed that they're definitely willing to make a trade, and even a big trade at that. And when that happened, the name that always came up that they're not willing to part with was not Jonathan Kuminga, it was Brandon Podziemski. So have they been willing to trade Kuminga for months now? I don't know the answer to that, but it kind of is hinting at that. Not working out a new contract with him, lowering his playing time, and simply not trusting him would seem to hint at them being willing to trade him. But if that really is the case, then who's even available, and most importantly, worth trading Jonathan Kuminga for right now? And if you ask me, right now there's not many, if any, player that would be worth it. I mean, Paul George went to Philly, Lauri Markkanen signed a new contract with Utah, and there's really nobody available that would be worth trading Kuminga for. The only former All-Star under the age of 30 that we know is available right now will be Zach LaVine, and between his salary of $43 million, his contract going on for another 2 years, and being injury prone, he's simply not worth it to begin with. Not only for a 1-for-1 swap with Kuminga, but adding that kind of contract to your team with the new CBA rules would be very difficult for them to build a good team. I wouldn't make that trade, and I would like to think that they would not make that trade either. But if they're patient and lucky enough, a team like the Milwaukee Bucks might keep trending downward, and therefore look to blow their team up. I don't really think it'll happen this season, but maybe later on next season or during the offseason, and if they're patient enough and keep Kuminga long enough, then maybe it could work out. But if you're really hoping for it, maybe something could happen this season. They're off to a 1-4 start after all, and Giannis Antetokounmpo has been linked to their team before. Then again though, he would cost way more than Jonathan Kuminga alone, and even a theoretical trade for Antetokounmpo would likely include Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and multiple draft picks to start out with. That would obviously be a big price tag, and we're not looking at a trade that would really be possible right now to begin with. I mean, theoretically it could happen, but even with a 1-4 start, I don't see Milwaukee trading Giannis. Firing their head coach, trading Chris Middleton, or even Damian Lillard would come long before that, and simply put, it's probably a pipe dream unfortunately. They do have enough to theoretically make it happen, and again, maybe that could pay off for them if they're patient enough, keeping Jonathan Kuminga until that point, waiting for Milwaukee to maybe blow it up after this season, and waiting for that kind of opportunity. But until that happens, I don't see it being a possibility for them. And maybe a patient backup plan for them, and actually this season, could be the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler. The Miami Heat are looking average again, not really looking like a big threat, and although we're still very early on, I think their run might be over, and they're kind of hinting at that with Jimmy Butler too. They failed to come to a contract agreement, and although Butler is still a great player and would be a short-term upgrade for any team, you gotta remember that he's now 35 years old and definitely in decline. Yeah, he might be good for another 2 or 3 years, but you're comparing him to a 22-year-old Jonathan Kuminga. Obviously, Butler is the better player right now, but Kuminga might be able to become the better player, and likely will be in the NBA for much longer than Jimmy Butler. So that's kind of the cost you have to weigh here. Would it be worth the short-term upgrade and maximizing the window of Steph Curry? Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. That will depend on who you ask. But overall, it's really interesting what the Golden State Warriors might be planning with Jonathan Kuminga. Why are they demoting him? Does that mean they're looking to trade him? And then what could they maybe get for him? With that being said though, what do you guys think? Do you believe the Warriors should or will look to trade Jonathan Kuminga? Or what do you think they should do with him instead? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.